Well, how's it going, guys? As promised, this week we are working on a truck. As you can see, we have our frame in here. I would say freshly blasted and painted, but that would be a lie, and you all know it because it's been blasted for months, sitting outside, but it seems to be holding up pretty well. I don't see any rust running anywhere, so I think Bub did a pretty good job of getting in all those nooks and crannies. As we all know, that wasn't easy. But we've also got our axles rebuilt, and they are painted as well, and all the parts that go along with it. We've been blasting and painting stuff black, kind of in the background over the last few months. And so all this stuff is done. It's ready to go back together. So that's what we're going to get started on now. All right, we're going to start in the back so Bub can get his mind right, get warmed up to the whole situation. And this should be pretty straightforward. Just getting wheel bearings in. We got obviously all new bearings, brakes, drums, rotors, all that stuff. So be like brand spanking when we get done. There we go.
Okay. That's that.
We got a little look at it. There's a lot going on in there. It's a good thing Bub was here to put it together, is all I could say. Those are both done. We unfortunately cannot put our hubs and drums on because we don't have parking brake cables. We got some, but they're wrong, so we had to order more, and they're not here yet. And the cable hooks up to this arm right here.
Yeah. Comes in through here.
Yeah, comes in that hole right there and around to this arm. So if we put the hubs and drums on, we'd have to take them back off to put the parking brake cables in. We don't see any point in doing that, so we're just gonna leave the back how it is and go work on the front. So while we're waiting on that, we are going to do the unthinkable. So when we were mocking all this up, we didn't realize that the OE replacement for these hangers isn't really available anymore. So what you got to get is these, I think these are off-road designs. They're pretty nice, honestly. They're nice and beefy. Comes with the whole kit, you know. It's got the bushings and bolt and all that stuff. The only issue is, to use these, you have to not only open up this hole, which is right here, they also want you to drill these out bigger, because the holes they give you are for a 7/16 bolt, which is weird in my opinion. But at any rate, we're gonna have to open these holes up for 7/16 bolts, and we gotta open this up to 2 inches to fit this in there. And then it'll go right there. So it's not a bad setup. It's just not what we intended to go with. We were gonna go with the original style of hanger, which would have went right back where it was, but we couldn't get them. So we have to do these. It means we have to do that, which sucks, but here we are. Gotta do what you gotta do. We'll just have to touch it up when we're done. So we got an assortment of stones here to accomplish this task. We use this cone and get it most of the way done, and this will keep it perfectly centered where it's at right now. This one could do the same thing, this radius stone, but this is 2 inches roughly, and it's risky business getting a stone that's almost the same size or the same size as your hole in there. You're gonna want to bind up and run around and break off. Yeah, this could be bad.
Break your arm off.
Yeah, so this one's got quite a bit of wear on it. It's gonna fit in there a lot better. I mean, it'll go in there. So this will probably do most of the work. But you want to use one that's pretty close to the size you need. That way you don't get a bunch of bumps in the side. So we'll see. We got plenty to choose from, and that's how we're going to get this done. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. It just sucks having to tear up our paint. That's all.
Yeah, we knew it was going to happen.
So this hole, as it is with paint and all, is about 1.870. What's that, about 7/8? 1 7/8?
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. So we're only taking out an 1/8 inch roughly, so that's a 1/16 all the way around, so it's not much. It's just enough to screw up the paint. That's probably pretty close. So again, that is pretty risky business, running this thing all the way around. But all I really did was mark more or less what we want to take out, but it still wanted to bounce. Now we just work our way around that line with this little guy here. Should be in business. That's go.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Well, while we're waiting on our paint to dry, we can go through this stuff. This is all off-road designs. This comes with the kit with these. These are called the heavy-duty front upper shackle hangers. And it's got these poly bushings, which I'm not particularly a fan of, but it's supposed to last forever. I just don't think they ride that good. But it comes with everything. Well, it don't come with everything you see here. It comes with the bushings and these greasable hanger bolts. And then these are the heavy duty front shackles, and those come with these. So I guess these are leaf spring bushings.
It looks like it.
Yeah, which we won't need. But we got all new bolts anyway. New hangers, or shackles I should say. And then these heavy duty hanger bolts. And these are bigger, I think, than what was originally in there. And it's got the sleeves or bushings or whatever that goes inside of these bushings. Like so. So we'll give our paint a little time to dry. We touched up these holes again, and then all we gotta do is bolt these bad boys in there, and we're ready to get our front springs and hang our front axle. Move right along with this thing. So the situation here is these are the bolts they send you. You got a 9/16 and a half. These shackles are cut 9/16 in half. This hanger is 9/16. Our problem is that both ends of our leaf springs are 9/16. So if you use the 1/2-inch bolt that they send you, mucho loose. So we obviously didn't want to do that. That left us with two options. Either knock this bushing out of the leaf eye and put the supplied bushings in there and hope that it's the fit you want. These leaf springs being aftermarket, there's really no guarantee on that. And we didn't really want to push these out just to find out. So option 2 was drill these shackles. And that's what we did. So now we've got a 9/16 bolt for both sides. All right. Yeah, I had a sneaking suspicion that wasn't just going to fall in there.
Yeah.
What does it need?
Oh, it looks like it's perfect.
There we go. There we go. Looking good.
Mm-hmm.
Probably close enough to get some bolts started.
Yeah, mine's on the pin, good.
All right, well, before we get too carried away and cover this thing up, we need to deal with this. So at some point, this thing has got knocked loose. And from my understanding, these are pressed in. It almost looks threaded, but they're straight grooves, I think. And the consensus is, once this comes out, you never get it to stay in. So people just suggest that you tap that for a 1/8 pipe and put in something like this, just a threaded barb. So that's what we're gonna do, but we don't wanna get all that metal down in there. So we're gonna have to break the seal on this cover, and we'll put a rag in there and catch the shavings when they come out. So I stuck a letter Q drill bit in this hole because that is the drill size for a 1/8 pipe tap, and it went in, fit pretty good. So no drilling is necessary here. Just gonna take a 1/8 pipe tap and tap it. Hope for the best. Don't want to go too far. I think we'll try that. Looks like a pretty nice thread. There we go.
Brand new redhead steering gear.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty swanky.
Yep. And that's not just a direct replacement from what came off of here because of the crossover steering. I believe it's a two-wheel drive version of the gearbox. It doesn't say that specifically on Redhead's website. It's just a different part number, but I'm pretty sure if I remember right, you're swapping to a two-wheel drive gearbox when you do crossover steering. So anyway, that's kind of the situation with that gearbox. And then we've been asked before about reinforcing this frame here. And as far as we know, if you have a 1-ton, the frame is already thick enough to where it's not necessary. It's a pretty common modification on a C10, maybe even a C20, but the 1-ton frames are heavier, so we don't need to worry about that. All we got to do is bolt it up.
Yeah.
Supposedly, Redhead steering gears come pre-cindered. So as long as you don't jack with it, it should be straight, already centered. So we should just need to stick this on there. Pretty much straight. Does that look straight? Looks pretty straight.
Yeah, it's pretty straight to me.
Try one tooth.
I don't know, I think one tooth's gonna be
Too much. Yeah, because I think that's a tooth.
Mhm.
That's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's got to be. This off-road designs as well.
It's like a pretty hefty piece of tube right there.
Yeah, that is a pretty hefty piece of tube. So that's the off-road design tie rod. That is a beefy tube. That sucker is heavy. Of course, it didn't come painted. We had to paint it along with the drag link. Yeah, we had to paint that too. And there's the drag link for the crossover steering. It's relatively hefty too. Not quite as hefty, but hefty enough. Yeah, I think this is the tie rod ends right here. Yep, ORD HD metal on metal tie rod end, left and right. The HD polyurethane boot is installed. They send these alongside the tie rod ends, which come with these rubber ones, and they say to change them. So we did. I'm not sure if it's better. They seem to think it is, so there we go. All right. We decided that this stabilizer that Off-Road Designs supplies with this whole kit, using pretty much every bit of its extension, at least at the moment. You know, these locks could be adjusted on the knuckle. So we just got the knuckles turned all the way to the left. We're at full extension, and we bolted our bracket on here. So that stabilizer shock is relaxed right there at full extension. So now I guess we can go ahead and get this guy put in there. I've been pretty anxious to see how this is gonna work. This is Off-Road Designs sway bar that's made to work with crossover steering. And I think we've said it before, but in the past, when you went to crossover steering, you had to forego a sway bar, which is less than ideal for highway use. And they came up with this a few years ago, and I've been really itching to try it out. Yeah, so this is the disappointment of the day. You know, I personally am not a big fan of these poly bushings. Having used them, I can tell you that they are rough. You know, maybe they last forever, maybe they don't. I don't know about that, but I do know that they're rough. So these were supposed to be rubber. These are Dorman. They said they were rubber, and then they came in and they're poly and they're red. So odds are these are not going to stay here, but it's what we got for now, so it's what we got to use. So we're going to put it together with these, and you know, maybe find some rubber in the future and change them back out. All right, so this is how it gets oriented in there. These curves kind of go up and back down. We've got our fancy pants poly bushings, and these are locks. And I believe they'll go on the outside here, and that just keeps it from going side to side. And the only reason that that's a problem now where it wasn't before is because we're using end links before the end of the sway bar mounted hard or solid to the axle spring plates. So since you have some flex in those end links, you got to go to something like this.
I mean inside.
Oh, inside?
Yeah, that's what it shows on here. Inboard side, torque 14 foot-pounds.
Okay, so these go on the inside then. Well, we just learned going in the instructions that you got to take this cap off and turn it around. They want these threads facing out. So, guess that's the next order of business. Would have been nice to know that before we torqued the thing down, but
Yeah, why do something once when you can do it twice?
yeah, practice makes perfect. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty snug right there. We are on the lock to the left, but the suspension is also completely relaxed. So it looks like that thing might squeeze up here past that ball joint, but it's going to be dangerously close. First impressions, it's going to be tight at the very least.
Yeah.
I felt that. That one hurt even worse. Right. Now these deals here, it says once you get all this stuff set up, take these bolts back out and red Loctite them. Well, that's interesting. I don't even fit in there.
Santa Monica. Must have went over 30 foot-pounds.
No, there ain't. No. It's an illusion. Ain't that revolting?
Yeah, it is.
Well, we decided to do a little modificating on these lock rings. Even if we had thicker bushings and could get enough room for them to fit, it's just too close to being metal on metal. You know, when those bushings wear in the future, this is almost inevitably going to start contacting the frame. We don't really like that, so just got it set up here in the mill, and we're going to take probably close to half of the thickness away on the bottom. This is the threaded side of the holes. The bolt heads are on the other side. And we're going to leave the meat. We're just going to go right up to the hole on each hole. So we're not taking any thread engagement away, even though those bolts don't go all the way through. But that should give it enough room for that sway bar to articulate. There we go. So we'll see how that'll do. Hopefully that's enough room for this thing to twist and never hit the frame. All right, so hopefully now you guys can get a better idea of what we're working with here. So obviously that doesn't even clear to begin with. So we machined it out so that it has some room to roll here. And this sway bar shouldn't articulate that much, but it should be in the all the way down position right now. So when we lock these things down, we'll just roll them forward like this, give it a little room, lock it down right there, and that should give it plenty of room to articulate up, hopefully. That's what this is all about. Not sure why that's a problem, but Off-Road Designs isn't manufacturing these. This is an off-the-shelf part. It came in a little bag with a different company name on it, so I don't know. Maybe just not compatible with these bushings. Who knows? But it's sorted out now. We can keep on trucking. The instruction says to use red Loctite on those little bolts. We're not going to Loctite them at this point because we still aren't convinced that this thing is going to work. We need to get this suspension articulating, see what it's going to do. So y'all just going to have to remind us to Loctite those.
Yeah.
Okay, well now I think the suspension is done. So giving it one more look over, there is our clearance on the pitman arm ball joint, which is not much. Things get pretty tight around here too. Right here against our lock bolt. This is the bolt that contacts the axle to, when you turn your wheel all the way. So this tie rod's going to have to be rolled up, when it gets locked down. We're going to have to account for this ball joint rolling in the socket too, to make sure that the head of that stabilizer bolt don't ever hit that. But of course, once this thing's turned back straight, you get all kinds of room everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah. But it's looking pretty good.
Yep.
So now we get bearings and seals and hubs.
Yeah, hubs. And brakes.
Yep.
All that fun stuff.